So, stress reduction 101. Life is challenging. In case you didn't know. But in mindfulness, we like to think about also, though, the suffering, which is sometimes called the second arrow. So the thing that happens to our life that we didn't ask for, told you had a cancer diagnosis. Challenge. But suffering, a lot of the suffering then it's partly our creation. What we bring to it in terms of our sense of what it means for our life, our interpretation of what it means. And so this stress reduction really focuses on this part, because that's the part we have some ability to work with, our own way of looking at the challenge. There's a lot of potential to work with that and not create more stress, more challenge, more suffering than necessary. A lot of these sufferings relate to perceived threats to our sense of self and ego-based strivings. You know, we work very hard to develop our sense of ourselves as adult human beings, and we cling very preciously to that. We created it throughout our life, and sometimes we can become so focused on that and so self-centered we miss a lot. And so this is asking us to take a step away from that and to look at other perspectives. I'll say more about that. So I just became mindful that I forgot to do something that I told you I was going to do. And some of you are nodding your head yes. So what is that? I was going to lead you through a brief mindfulness exercise, so I'm going to do that right now. See how this mindfulness works? I became aware of that, and I can now respond to it. I didn't do that on purpose. So this is very simple. It's not religion, it's not mumbo-jumbo. It's paying attention. So let's pay attention. But I'm going to ask you to direct your attention in certain ways. Let's start by what I'd like you to do, if you're willing to. You don't have to, but maybe close your eyes. And one of the reasons is because I want to start with perception of feelings in your body. So sometimes it helps to kind of close off some of the sensory channels. It makes it a little easier to focus on some of the others. So sensory channel of the body. So we can feel, like touch is one of them, right? So where you're sitting on the chair, there's a lot of pressure, so you can feel that, right? You can feel the sense of the pressure on your skin and the muscles, the sensible tissues that are against the chair. You're aware of that. Now there are more subtle body sensations you could be aware of too. You could become aware of the feeling of your fingers if I asked you to, and I will ask you to do that right now. Become aware of the feeling of your fingers and your hands. You know, the inner palm, the sensitive parts of the fingers and the back of the hand, the nail beds. You're aware of that without looking at it. You can sense where the nails are. You could bring your awareness to the wrist, the forearm, the upper arm, the shoulders, the neck. So I've just mentioned the neck and shoulders, and sometimes that's a place where we hold a lot of tension. So using that awareness, if right now in your shoulders and neck you can feel a lot of tension, perhaps you have some way where you could just give yourself permission to soften that tension. Let your arms hang floppily from your sockets, just like a Raggedy Ann doll. Let your jaw be soft, so your lower jaw just hangs from the sinews. Let your tongue be soft in your mouth. Become aware of your face. Are you holding any tension there? And if so, could you let it go? Bring the awareness further down the body, maybe to the chest, the belly, the area of the pelvis where the genitals are. And this is an area that we hold tight when we're nervous or tense because it's very vulnerable, right? So if you're holding tension there, could you soften that. So I'm leading you through the awareness and then giving you the choice to, if you'd like to, you can see if you can encourage letting go, relaxation of the muscles. The large muscles of the legs and buttocks, all the way down to the feet, the toes, the soles of the feet. And if I asked you to, you could probably be aware of the sense of the body as a whole. All connected, all working together, where there's, so much wisdom and, intelligence going on that maintains your life moment by moment. So much going on outside of our awareness. So much innate wisdom and intelligence that keeps us going moment to moment. But we can feel something of that, right? We can feel the sense of presence of the body. Maybe the flow of breath, the beating of the heart, the arterial pulse, the strength of the body, the energy of the body. Depending on how sensitive and how much you pay attention to what's going on. And then lastly, maybe I could ask you to become aware of, maybe not lastly, how about the mind, the mental part of let's say the thinking part of the mind. You can probably recognize, you're listening, you're hearing what I'm saying, and then there's usually some sort of digestion of that, some kind of analysis, and maybe acceptance or rejection of it, or thinking about it. You might also have emotional responses going on in your body. They could be very subtle, or it could be a strong emotion that you can easily identify, give a name to. There's a difference though, the feeling itself and then the name we give to it. So you could be aware of the feeling itself, and maybe or maybe not you'll find a label up there in the thinking part of the mind. Let me ask you now to bring awareness to, focus your attention on the sensation of your own breath. Find some place in your body where you can feel a sensation that represents the movement of breath in and out of your body. So, traditionally the tip of the nose or the sinuses, or the belly rising and falling, the abdomen rising and falling. So not the idea of the breath, but the actual palpable sensation. Can you find that? So bringing attention there. So when breath is moving in, you're aware of the sensation of the breath moving in, breath turning around, breath moving out, breath turning around again and coming in again. Just your normal, natural breath, no fancy schmancy breathing techniques. Just allowing your body to determine how much breath it wants or needs in any given moment. And just attending to that sensation, 1 second, 1 moment by moment. Breath by breath. And even as you do that, as you follow my instruction, you'll probably find that there are distractions, right? Ideas flash through the mind that for a moment at least take your attention off that sensation. But you could bring it back. So what I want to do now is I'm going to ring these symbols, and I'm going to ask you to just follow the breath for about, just a few seconds, maybe less than a minute. But what you'll notice probably is that your mind will start to do other things despite your best intention to pay attention. And what I'd like you to do is, once you notice that you've gone off somewhere else, that's okay. Just let go of wherever you went, and for the next moment or two, come back to the next breath. So start over again however many times is necessary. So I'll ring the bells 3 times, and then I'll ring them 1 more time in about a minute. In the meantime, just pay attention to the sensation of your own breath. So go ahead and open your eyes if you've closed them. And did you notice your mind going off at all? Any times? Mine only went off 20 or 30 times during that minute. I thought about how long should I do this? There are people on a camera somewhere else. I don't know if they'll want to sit there silently for a minute or two. And oh, what am I going to say next? So, you know, that voice, we all can recognize it, right? Sometimes we don't recognize, though, how central it is to creating our sense of stress in our lives. That voice that registers the future problems, and we start to carry them now instead of when they're actually here. All the problems from the past, all the regrets that we can bring back into the present, all that all at once, it can be a lot. But if we can let that go for a minute, I think we recognize that this moment's not so bad. We can probably deal with this moment. And what is our life but one moment following upon another moment? And you know, you've got this far, you'll probably get quite a bit further. And mindfulness, then, as we develop it as a basic way of being in our world, in our lives, we can start to notice more what we're doing with ourselves and with our minds during the day. Are we really investing that brilliant consciousness on the things that make the most difference to us? Or is it, you know, really mundane things? The me train. I call it the me train here. This idea that we have to be certain kinds of people and we have to have certain kinds of things to be okay. All that stuff we accumulate around us that gives us our sense of our identity. You know, that can be very burdensome as well. So we can use this mindfulness also to notice when we're not exhibiting these virtuous qualities that we all would aspire to, right? We want to be the best we can. We want to provide service to others, be helpful and good. But sometimes we don't. We're not that. And so mindfulness allows us to notice when we're going down the wrong path and to say, wait a minute, that's not what I want in my life. Without mindfulness, though, we could be all the way down the road before we know it. Lost. So we can use this mindfulness to say, wait a minute, I don't want to be in an angry state right now. I don't want to be in a stress state right now. What can I do to shift gears? So these are some attitudes we talk about in the mindfulness program. Non-judging, patience, beginner's mind. Trust, non-striving, acceptance, and letting go. Now, whenever we talk about this in the program, people all say, oh, you know, these are things that we don't generally get much support for in our culture, right? We're supposed to be real critical, judging people. We're supposed to get things done. We're supposed to know a lot. But if you want stress in your life, just turn these around. Become judgmental, impatient, know-it-all, paranoid or distrustful, striving, rejecting, and grasping. Just think about those words and what it's like to live a life characterized by those qualities. It's a pretty tough way to go with this one. Say, okay, beginner's mind is the idea of trying to be aware of our pre-existing prejudices and see things more freshly. So there's an old story that's often told about the academic who goes to see a Zen master. This is a classic story, so I'll share it with you. And the academic comes to meet the Zen master, and the Zen master starts pouring tea in the formal, ritualized way that is done. And the academic can't stop talking about what he knows about Zen and about Buddhism. And so the Zen master's pouring the tea, and the cup overflows, and pretty soon the academic says, "Stop, you idiot, can't you see? The cup is overflowing." And so the moral of the story, well, you're so full of it, your own ideas, how am I going to teach you anything? And we're like that too. You know, men especially, I think, are encouraged. You have to know everything. You have to be an expert on everything. It's kind of like a proxy measure of how good we are as human beings. But the problem with knowing it all is you're not open to anything new learning. And so beginner's mind is a way of trying to see things freshly. You know how a child is on the playground? They're amazed by the simplest thing. We can rediscover that, sometimes by paying attention, because often what happens is maybe we're in the presence of something amazing and beautiful, like all you people here. But if I have you put into just some category, prostate cancer patients, what do I see? I'm missing so much. And so this beginner's mind is trying to strip away all the preconceptions. And as much as possible, we can't do it absolutely, right? But at least we can do is start to be more aware of our labeling process and how that shapes what we see. Because once we think we know it all, we're missing so much. Instead of seeing clearly, we're imposing our ideas on what's actually happening.